I just want to welcome everybody to Rhema Rantz today, where my guest host is The Rock. See, The Rock? See how I did that? But seriously, today we're going to be discussing creationism versus evolution, and I'm going to start first with evolution. One of the most popular theories on how we got here is the theory of evolution, which is scientifically accepted as how the creation of the universe actually occurred. The universe as we know it is rapidly expanding. Scientists believe that the Big Bang Theory gives us a rational explanation for how the universe was created. The Big Bang Theory basically states that there was a large accumulation of gas in space that through rapid heat and cooling expanded and created the universe as we know it today. But there are several major problems with that theory. The observable universe as we know it is about 46 billion light years long. That's only what we can see. That doesn't count what we cannot see and what is not observable by things like the Hubble Space Telescope. In order for us to understand how big that really is, we have to know how long a light year is. 1 light year calculated is what you see below. That would be 5,878,499,810,000 miles long. That's only 1 light year. Our observable universe, again, is 46 billion light years long. Yeah, take that in. That is a lot of space. And that's only what we can see. Measured from the equator, the Earth is about 25,000 miles in circumference. The exact measurement you can see below. That means if you were to stand above the equator, the Earth travels about 25,000 miles in a typical day. If you divide 25,000 miles by 24 hours in the day, you get about 1,041 miles per hour. So in a typical day, we're rotating at about 1,050 miles an hour. But that's only 1 day. In 1 year, the Earth has to travel around the Sun completely to make 1 complete orbit. That takes 365 or 366 days, depending on whether or not it's a leap year. If you were to do the math on that, that means in a typical year, traveling at 1,000 miles per hour, the Earth is typically traveling about 67,000 miles per hour around our Sun. Our Sun, which is in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy, which is part of the entire universe. At the center of the Milky Way galaxy, there's a giant supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A. Sagittarius A is about 27,000 light years away. It has an estimated mass that is 4.1 billion times that of our Sun, and an estimated diameter of more than 15 million miles. And that's just our galaxy. So let's go back to my co-host, The Rock. This is a pretty big rock. But if this was to represent the Earth, it would be like dropping this rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean just to estimate our galaxy. That's a pretty big bang. In order for the Big Bang Theory to be accurate, that explosion and expansion would have had to create not only our galaxy, but all the other known galaxies out there, and the ones that we don't know of yet. Why does it even matter? Just because it does, gosh. This is basically impossible. On top of that, it would also be responsible for creating all the cells that are contained in the human body, and creating life itself on the planet. Along with our planetary systems and universe, evolutionists would also like you to believe that life started with the Big Bang. The thought is that a single-cell organism came out of primordial goo, split, and became all the creatures and species on the planet that you know of today. That would mean that every creature on Earth came from that one single-celled organism. They would also like you to believe that we evolved from Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons to become Homo sapiens or Homo erectus as we are known today. And that Homo erectus actually evolved from apes, or has some type of DNA related to a chimpanzee. While science would like for you to believe this, this is completely inaccurate. While the DNA structure of an ape and a human being look similar in shape, they are composed with completely different amino acid structures. DNA is actually short for deoxyribonucleic acid. Essentially what DNA is a bunch of amino acids. The chains of DNA are normally abbreviated with a G, A, T, or C. G representing guanine, T representing thymine, C representing cytosine, and A representing adenine. The sequencing of DNA is what makes up the human cell structure. The way that DNA is bonded together is what makes a species a species. So the bonds of one species would be completely different than those of another. If you were to take a sample from an ape today, or a chimpanzee, and compare that to human DNA, those bonds are completely structurally different. This is important because if we were actually related to them, then we would have DNA structures that were very much the same. We would also be able to procreate with them, which we know is impossible. The human body itself is made up of over 100 trillion cells.
100 trillion.
Apes have less. Also, an ape or chimpanzee has 24 pairs of chromosomes, and a human being only has 23. So we can make the scientific assumption based on that data that apes and humans are not related. Also, in order for the Big Bang to have created life on Earth as it is, every species would have to be interconnected by the original cell that created all life on Earth. That would mean that every creature on Earth would have to share some similarity in DNA structure or cell structure, which we know to be false. So using science as our guide, it is very easy to disprove the Big Bang Theory and the theory of evolution. Yet we still teach this in schools. Before you just believe that science has all the answers, you really have to consider all the variables. Creationism would be one of those variables. To eliminate creationism, even if you were to consider it as a theory, would be completely unscientific. So why do we continue to do it? One of the biggest problems that I have with the Big Bang Theory is that it is assumed that out of disorder came order. That this explosion on its own just found a way to organize itself to become the planetary systems in the universe that we know of today. Also, by chance, it created human beings, birds, fish, worms, goats, whatever else you want to name. All of these things would have had to have been created by the same bang, the same cell. Now, creationism gives us a very different story of how the earth began. The Bible says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and after that, he created man in his own image. The reason why creationism makes more sense is because each individual creature would have had to start with a male and female part. That male and female part combine chromosomes and DNA to create another version of itself, which we like to call reproduction. Just about every species on Earth has to have a male and a female part. Even some asexual species like plants have a male and a female part. The Bible gives us a very clear explanation on how life began. God started with a male and a female of each species and created life as we know it. This covers fish, this covers birds, this covers people, insects, all had a male and a female part. He gave man dominion over those parts, and man currently rules the planet as we know it. Everything on the planet has an order to it, and everything functions within that order. Order does not happen by accident. Order happens by plan. The only way you could have such a precise order is if someone put it that way. This leads us back to our Creator, God. So our prevailing thoughts are, we can either choose to believe that we were created out of disorder into order, or that we were created by God with a specific plan and purpose. Man has a fallen nature, and we don't want to believe that there's a God. This is why we are so quick to accept a scientific view of how we got here and why we exist. Most people like to be in charge of their own lives and like to be in charge of their own destiny, which is fine. But what they don't want to do is have to follow God's mandates for their life, which is why a lot of people will end up lost in the first place. So again, the question is, evolution or creationism? There's a lot of rocks flying around in the universe, but the Bible gives us one specific rock that we can truly put our faith in. You can choose to believe that the earth is just some random rock floating around in space, or you can choose to believe God's account of events and believe in the true rock, which is Jesus Christ. Until next time. Hey Jim, seriously, I look like James Brown with this hair. Dude, all I need is a white woman and some crack. Super bad. I'm super bad. Saucy.